and welcome to another Random Code stream. This is the issue that I'm going to be working on. So let me get the music going. Make sure the desktop audio is on first. All right. So this one, zooming in a little bit, is a simple one, or at least it feels simple, in that we want to take a number that's in your code with this format, which again, I'm going to zoom even more to make it obvious. You know, is that 800 million? Is that 80 million? Maybe you can see it clearly enough, but typically people separate these out and when you write them out, and this is somewhat of a cultural thing in that the symbols to do the separations are different. I believe in some cultures you'll actually put in a comma where, like where I live in America, we put the dot, and vice versa. I think that's how it works. So there are differences, and of course you can't just do that in code. So what C# added in C#7 is the ability to put the underscores in to format it however you want. You don't have to put them at the thousands spot. You can put them wherever you want, whatever makes sense to you. But this is very clear to me. That's 80 million. This is not as easy to read. Okay. Now, when I put this issue in, which was almost 3 years ago, 3 years ago, in that time, Visual Studio has added a refactoring to separate it for you, but notice that it's not solution wide, and there's probably reasons why they did that. I want to make this solution wide. So even though they've added one, I don't know what convert to binary, convert to hex. I mean, I know what that's going to do, but then I don't know what they do for separation. Okay. So I want to be able to say, take all my numbers that don't have formatting and format them so that it's easier to read. So that's the thing I'm going to be working on. And just to illustrate the point, here's in .NET Lab. I'm using this now instead of Sharp Lab just because I find it more consistent, easier. Sharp Lab was great, but in the last six months, the editing has become atrocious. I don't know what happened, but you'll randomly get all your code just disappears. And yeah, can't do that. So .NET Lab is a nice tool. I don't know if they actually have a sponsorship. If they don't, I should sponsor it and throw them a buck or two, because why not? I need to do that more. I have to do that more. I'm going to do that more. Okay. So you can see here, I'll zoom in a little bit, but that's going to make the formatting for the binary. So you can do hex formatting, you can do binary formatting, you can decimal formatting, and you can use those here as well. And again, there's no rhyme or reason as to where you put this in. It affects nothing in terms of what the actual value is. Okay, so what I think is more consistent is starting, yeah, and I didn't put any formatting on this one. Let me do that real quick. I was trying to get this in right before the stream started, is with binary is that you group them every 4, starting from the right, moving left. With hex, arguably you could do 2, or what I find is better is 4. I find it easier to, I'm sorry, with 2. Whatever I just said. I find it easier with 2. You may find it easier with 4, but maybe I do that as an option. Maybe I say, format a hex with 2, separate with two values, separate with 4 values. With binary, it would be separate by 2 and 4. With decimal, I think it should always be separate by 3, by thousands. Okay, and so maybe I have those options built in, and say, like, if you have a number like this, it's an informational. It's not a warning. It's not an error. It's just, hey, do you want to separate these? And then if you say yes, it gives you, for a case of a binary format, it will give you 2 options, 2 and 4 separation. Same thing with hex, and with decimal, it will give you an option to say separate by 3. And then it would be solution wide. So with that, let's get to it. I don't know how to determine whether it does have it or not. I don't know if you actually have to read the number and then read it as a string and see if there's any underscores in it or not. But that's why I have this as part 1, because I don't think I'm typically have these streams go by an hour-ish, and I'm thinking I'm not going to be able to get this done in an hour. So we'll see. So we're going to want, I have a branch out there. So if you want to check it out, the link to the issue is in the description, and you should then be able to, from there, go to the repository, find the branch, because it starts with 22. That's the number of the issue. If you want to follow along, that's up to you. So I want to put in a analyzer first. That's what goes in analysis. And we want to call this detect non-separated digits analyzer. Sure. It's a name. What's in a name, right? Let's get the font down a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't. There we go. Okay, let's pick something to get at least all the templated stuff needed. Okay, then we need that. Then we need that. And then we need to implement it. Again, this is just all of the boilerplate. All of the boilerplate. So in that case, we'll do that. Except this is going to be that, which we don't have. But we will. So let's get that in there. So we want it to be a internal static class. And these things. And we're going to want to call it this identifier, which we don't have, is not an error. It is an info. We want these to be that. Numbers should use digit separators. Non-separated numbers. I don't know. Seems like a good one as any. Okay, so now we got that. We got that in place. That now works. So then we can copy this. And we'll put that down here. Except we want that to be this. And then this. We do that to start. Now, okay, what do you still bar? Oh, they don't have. An analyzer that finds numbers. No. Okay, don't really need that, but now we're here. Now we can actually start doing work. Can you? Const decimal. No, let's do const double. Normal. I don't know what else to call it. 33.44D. Oh, let's put some more numbers in here. Can I also format them? Yes. So that puts a nice little wrinkle into this, is that it's not just integers. Arguably, if you had a double, you would want it to be declared this way. Can you double in decimal? Because I've never even tried to do this stuff. Can you say 0b? No, you can't put a D, so that doesn't work. Can you do it in hex? Or wait a minute, it's now saying that's okay. Wait, what's the... The what? The name double in dec... Oh. Oh, look at that. That actually works. So... Huh. Don't tell me that's invalid input. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah. That's not going to work. Okay, 334.313.44. I know that a double, a single, a half, all these are still stored in binary, and there's that whole IEEE standard. So there probably is a way to do this in binary. I just don't know what it is. I don't think you can do this. Yeah, that's not going to work. So you can declare double in binary, but it will be just, that's what it is, I think. How far can you go with this? Integral constant is too large. So yeah, it must have some cutoff point. But we do want to look for decimals that we do want to look for decimals. I'm sorry, not decimals, doubles that are formatted as decimal. Great morning. Happy Father's Day. So yeah, what we really want to do is say, is there a literal number or some assignment that, because there's now these interfaces like iBinary. I think there's iSign number, there's iBinary number. I wonder if there's one for decimals as well. Doubles. You know, and just say if this number implements this interface, then look at the format of the number that you put in there, and then see if you need to put in separators. So okay. So what does this actually look like? If I put in just stick them in this class. And then let's bring up the syntax visualizer and let's see what we get here. Now, it's not also just consts. We could say var, and it's the same thing. So that is a numeric literal expression. And it has a numeric literal token, which is this. And so that tells you what the value is. And this is the text. So we could look at the text and say, hey, do you have any there? So let me get my notes. I always got to have notes when I'm doing this. Okay, so we need... Oh, geez, too many tabs. We really want to find... Let's go with numeric, a literal expression syntax. What to search for. A literal expression syntax. Kind is numeric. I think it's numerical. Numeric. Literal expression. Okay, what about binary? Same thing. Decimal. What about double? They're all numeric literal expressions. All right, so that actually makes it maybe easy. Let's find out. All right. So what we want to do here is we want to register an action. What do you mean it doesn't? Oh, because I don't have this here. We don't need any of this. So what we want to have now is analyze literal expression. Okay. And so we want to have something like this. Except, no, we don't want this one because it's doing operations. We want to use something else that's a... No, that's a diagnostic descriptor. We want... maybe more something like this. Yes, register syntax. Okay, and then that's called the compilation context. Just be consistent. And then we can take that off, that off, that. And then we say here that. Wait, no, that's what I'm doing. Right, okay. Sorry. It's the morning. Syntax. Kind. And then what was it? Numeric literal expression. I guess I could do a token too and get right to the token. I don't think you can register, though, a... No, there's no token. So the syntax node is the best. Okay. There. Okay, no, this needs to be a syntax node. Action analysis context. Hey, Mitch. Hope you're doing well this morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is in Australia at this time. I forget. Okay, what's this complaining about? Oh, God. There we go. Okay, now I can actually code. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to say, let's get literal, and we want to make it a literal expression syntax. No, not that. There. Okay, if literal dot token dot text contains if it does not contain it, then we want to do something. That's it. That is all we want to do. And then we're going to report a diagnostic. And the diagnostic is going to be can we do token get location? Yeah, okay. There. I think that's it. I think that's all we got to do. Because if you put a separator in it, then we're assuming you're formatting it to however you want to do it. Now, we also got to be a little bit careful here. So, this will work, but it's kind of like putting a sledgehammer to it to do. We don't want to flag in cases like 314, 3.14, you know, those are okay. We would want to do analysis for binary and floating point numbers. Or if you said 0B1011. Or you want to do that. I mean, is there really do you want to need that? I mean, that's where, Michelle, this is C#. This is what's called creating an analyzer. So you can look at your code. You can have this thing look at your code and find all sorts of fun things in your code that you want to let your new users know about. So first thing I'm going to do is write a test. Let's just make sure that we're actually getting this to work the way we expect it to, and then we can start doing the be more fine-grained. All right. No, not C++, C#. All right, so let's come into here. And let's do this. Tests. Let's do that. We can get that in there first, just get that one out of the way, but it's nice to have that in there. If I could type. And then we want that, except we want that. This is an info. Okay, so that one should work. And it doesn't. Oh, the IDs. Where am I looking at the ID? Ah, I missed that one. This is why you do tests. Okay. So next one, analyze when no literal expression exists. We're going to keep that in there for now because I might use that. This should be fine as it is. Now let's put in yeah, I was doing that. No. What happens if I say var x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 2? Doesn't matter. Let's go into syntax visualizer. That is also a numeric literal. So those will be caught too. What if I say var a is equal to 3, var b is equal to 4, and you would never write code like this? Well, sort of. What is this? Yeah, this is now not even that anymore. Okay. I want to make sure that I was catching all the cases, and it doesn't matter if so we can just do void run, and it literally does nothing, but that's fine. Now what we want is let's put in, let's just make these public. Again, doesn't matter. So then why am I changing it? Because that's just who I am. Public const int value equals 3, 1, 2, 3. With formatting, with separator. This should also do nothing. But now no technically it should say no separators. Okay. So now we need to start putting in a diagnostic result. Which is detect as an info. And I guess it's going to start on line 3. Let's make sure this doesn't have one in there. So it's going to be, that's 1, 2. So where would this actually start? 29 and then 29 plus 4. 33? Is that what it's going to be? Let's see if my guess is correct. All right, so now we need to throw that diagnostic in here. I should have just did that. Let's see what this does. It might fail because the numbers are off. Let's see. $327, $331. So yeah, $27.31. We were just off a little bit. Boom. I forgot to tell you, while you were away, I got served a YouTube recommendations of an old interview you did. Must have been pretty old because you were talking about the Rosalind Project now is going to be a game changer. Which one is that? Not that like I've done a ton of interviews in my life, but that might be one from Visual Studio. They were doing for a little while interviews at the conference. They haven't done that in a long time, but that might be it. If you can find it, can you put links in chat? I don't think you can. Maybe just put in like the name of the video or something like that. I'd be interested to see which one you're talking about because I don't remember offhand. And then I'll look at that later. All right, so this is good. We've got a good start. 22. Edit analyzer with tests. While that's going on, yeah, that's one thing I don't have is tests for my descriptors, which I really should do. Also for the extensions, but that's a busy thing to do later. So I'll get to that later. All right, so now let's clear these out. And now let's think about this a little bit. How are we going to handle something like that? Does this thing have a... It does. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the thing where it like goes around. This is decent enough-ish. So yeah, you get the expression. Oh, you click on this, and then it will move over there. And then you can get the token, which is the text we're looking at. Yeah, that makes sense, because I think in 2011 is when they first officially announced. There had been rumors, I think Anders Hausberg, when he was actually the head of the C# thing, the C# language and all that stuff. The conference used to be called PDC, Professional Developer Conference. Now it's basically Build. More or less the same thing-ish. And he would start doing things at the end of his What's New in C# talk. Just hinting at, I think it was called Compiler as a Service, you know, just talking little hints about it. And then in 2011 is when they finally announced it as what they're working towards. And this is, you know, going to take some time still. They had been working on C#, compiled by C# pretty much before the 1.0 release, but because of time reasons and other things, they ended up using C++, more or less, as the compiler language. But they had always been kind of trying to keep this C# compiler in the background up to snuff and up to speed, but, you know, of course, they got features to work on. So they finally decided, no, we really want to make this the platform, the compiler for C#. They announced that in 2011. And then 2014 at Build, that's when they also announced they were open sourcing it. That was huge. If anybody does anything with Microsoft stuff with .NET, yes, they were starting to do some things in the open source space before that. But to me, that was the big inflection point, because that made C# the language, the compiler, all of that open source. And everything rapidly started, just like a domino effect. All the stuff in .NET started becoming open source. So... for good, better, and different. That's just the way it ended. So we can look at the token and say, okay, does it start with an 0x or a 0b? And if it does that, then we can start saying, you know, is the remainder of the string at least a length of like greater than 2, and does it have it? And if it doesn't have this, then we can say, is it a length greater than 3 and doesn't have it? Okay, I think that's a decent check. The first thing we'll do though is look to see, does it have it at all? Maybe. Maybe let's do this. Var literal text is equal to literal token text. We don't want the value text, we want the text. Okay. And now we'll say if literal text starts with OX or literal text starts with OB. Now, can you also do capitals? I can't remember. Does it support that? No. Yes. And that's perfectly fine. So we have to do a string insensitive case. 0x0b. Ignore case, or nope, I already put the comma there. Okay, so if it's one of these cases, then what we want to do is say from the secondish index beyond, let's put these in, because if we don't detect any are we going to do something. There's one there, we're done. I think that's fast enough. Now if it's one of these and we want to say if literal text, can you guys span? We want to start at 2 contains sorry, I'm being a little foolish. We know it's is greater than 2. There. Is that faster than... Yeah, it would be. We don't want to substring it because there's no point in that. We could, though... Actually, I'm being stupid here. If literal text length... Yeah, I was being a little bit dumb. We know there's 2 there. And we don't have the underscore, so is this greater than 4? So we'll just flag it here. Because in that case, we know we need to do it. Yeah, I love this kind of history. I recently learned that async await was primarily driven by Mads Torgensen. Yes, I think deserves just as much credit. Yes, he does. You're absolutely 100% correct, Mitch. Anders was the father, so to speak, of C#. And over time, you know, Mads came. I don't remember when he came onto the team, and you know, he's worked his way up to being he's now his title is lead designer of C#. But Anders somewhere around 20, like when TypeScript started to become a thing, 2013, somewhere around there. He went over there because he wanted to have a new challenge and he fell in love with TypeScript, whatever the case may be. And so he ended up becoming the lead for TypeScript. And, he would still do stuff in C# as that transition over time occurred. But I think while he's still involved in C#, it's become such a minor thing. He is so, like, TypeScript is his thing. So, yeah. And I love history. I love history of, just not even programming, technology history in general. Although I had a very bad experience with history and the appreciation of it when I was in high school. We had the guy who taught history. I think there was freshman and sophomore, whatever those classes were, history. It's like world history and U.S. history or something like that. And then I think maybe he did one or two courses that you could take if you wanted to. Later on, he was an old guy, and people found out because the community I grew up in, the town I grew up in, was very small, and so it was not uncommon to have kids go through school that had parents that went through the same high school that had the same teacher. He was one of them, and he wasn't a bad guy. It wasn't like he was a jerk or anything like that. But, and I'm dating myself. When I was in high school, he had all of his notes on overhead projectors. We had the clear piece of plastic and you'd write on it and then it would project on the screen. He used the same slides that he did when the parents were going through high school, because I guess some parents had saved their notebooks for whatever reason, and the kid was taking notes and they looked at him and they're like, it's virtually identical. And I think he had the mentality of history doesn't change. It's just, this date happened and this event happened and this occurred then. But history evolves and shapes where we are to today. And I didn't get it was more of just rote memorization of facts. It wasn't what's the context? What did it mean when this happened? What was the result of it? How did that shape events to where we are now? And so unfortunately, I ended up just having I didn't get that appreciation out of it. I was approaching it almost like a math course, just facts, and not putting the analysis into going, well, what does this mean for us? For society, for community, for countries, that I missed that. So anyway, Wax, getting off on things. Okay. So now if we say there wasn't any formatting, and even this isn't true, because you could have this. Oh, that's only if it starts with 0x and 0b. And then that means no matter what, whether it's a binary or a floating point number, it doesn't matter. You want it to have, it's got to be at least 4 in length for you to start saying, yes, we could at least offer up that kind of refactoring. It starts getting a little harder now if you don't have any formatting around it. All right. So how do we want to do that? Well, I think another way you can format a literal is if you put a dot in it. If you put a dot in it, then that means it could be either a decimal, a double, a single, a half. There's a half. Did you also know that there is in .NET, you can't use a keyword, but you can say int 120, 128, or is it 256? Oh, you can't because I'm in, crap, let me go to tests here. I'm in .NET Standard, which of course it doesn't exist in .NET Standard. Shakes fists at sky. Int 128, and there should be also an int, I think there should be a 256. Oh, there isn't. I thought there might have been. But yeah, you can do int 128. There's no way to say like a super long type or something like that, but you can declare 128-bit types if you want. And there's also half. I don't know if half ever made it. No, but there is half here. but that's half of a single. So we're, yes and no, but it's meant to be a very small floating point number. Either way, I think now if we say if the number contains a dot, then we want to look on either side of it because we want to do the formatting for one or the other. If it doesn't have a dot, then we just look at the length and say we don't have binary or hex, and so we want to say if it's at least if it's greater than 3, because that means you have 4 and we want to put 1,000 separator into it. Okay, so if why am I just realized why am I doing this? Come on, chat, you got to catch me on that stuff. Okay, so now we want to do here, we want to say if report diagnostic, and then let's do that and let it be formatted. There we go. Okay, so now we want to say if literal text contains a dot. Now what we want to do, well, actually, let's grab it. Let's go var dot position is equal to, yeah, we want index of. And what this will do is it will return if dot position is greater than -1. No, dot position is greater than -1. Now we know that there's a dot that exists in it. And so what we want to do is say, grab the text, because again, we know if we're in here, we know we did not find an underscore, and we know that we're not binary or hex. So now what we need to do is say, look at the left side of the dot and the right side of the dot, because I think you can also do this. You can say var x is equal to 0.34. And this is just, it's not used, but that's perfectly valid. So we got to be careful because there might not be anything on the other side. So what we want to say now is we want to say if not substring as span, we want to say 0, and the length would be dot position. And I know there's probably a way you can do this where you do the range. Length is greater than 3, or the literal text, we'll just put that in there as a placeholder, and then we need a brace there. No, we don't. We want to take that off. Okay, there we go. Now we want to report. And again, I might clean this up and make it read a little bit easier, but I'm just trying to get the logic through in my head first. So now what we want to say is the start. Because let's say we had 3.14. The position of the dot would be at 1. So we want to say we'd start at 0 and 1. And of course, you might say, what was it at 0? I think what it's going to do if you say at span 0, 0, you're going to get a 0 length span. I think. I don't think it will exception. I think it will just do that. And now what we want to do is say as span, the start position, we want to be as dot position plus, come on, and then the rest of it. Okay. Now else. Else if. Now in this case, we don't have underscore. It's not hex or binary. We don't have a dot. So we say literal text length is greater than 3. We report a diagnostic. Again, I'm going to clean up this logic first. Interesting. Didn't realize you could omit the 0. Yeah, you can. And again, what Mitch just asked or made the statement is this is the fun and pain of analyzers or anything you do with Roslyn is how you code may not be the way somebody else codes. Because I always put a 0 in front because I think it reads better. But you don't have to. You can put for attributes, I'm not going to do here, but you can say like test and test action. That doesn't quite work because NUnit's going to come in here with its... Oh, that's abstract. Can I say test fixture? Is that also going to... Yeah, but you can declare it this way. You can also have this. And how that gets analyzed is slightly different. It ends up being there's two attributes on that method or that member. But it puts them in lists. So you'll either have what this would be is two lists, each containing one attribute. Or you could have, if I back this up, you could have one list with two attributes in it. So you got to be careful of both cases. So that's why I'm doing a lot of this work right now, is because I'm trying to think of what could you do, even if it's not something that I would personally do. Yeah. Analyzers, code fixes, code generators, all that stuff. Man, you might come up with an idea, but then you also have to think of what is valid to do that in C# that may not be the way you do it. So anyway, all right. So now none of our tests should fail. Whoops. Maybe. They all pass. Okay, because these are the simple cases. Now what we want to do is start going through and saying, analyze when. Yeah, because again, if it has an underscore, we never do anything. My method names are getting long. God, that is awfully named. But, okay, so we're saying 0B, 0, like 1, 1. That should actually not create a diagnostic. That should be okay. And it is. Now what we want to do I'm getting really long with the names here. Oh, you didn't know that. I'm assuming you mean the attribute thing that I just mentioned. We'll say undersize here. And then we'll say oversize here. Because let's just put a 1 here. Now this should actually create a diagnostic. I don't know if those numbers are correct, but we're going to find out. Come on. Why are you not? Hate it when it doesn't put the dot there. 2732. Yep, that passes. Cool. So at least that logic seems to be doing well. My method doesn't have an inner member access expression, whereas the others do. The other, wait, sorry, I got to back up. The other week I was fixing a source generator because base method, this method, and method are all invocation expression syntax. But method doesn't have an inner member access expression where the others do. Yeah. how they've created their syntax tree, and how they pull everything out of it and get it all parsed sometimes doesn't make quite sense to me, and that's why you have to play with the syntax visualizer a lot and figure out what's going on. Also, when you are looking for an attribute, do you know you're actually looking for a method? This is a method invocation. This is a method symbol. You're actually invoking the constructor here. And so, like, I don't have, and I don't do it anymore in Rocks because now I use for attribute with metadata name. But if you are trying to look for attributes, you have to look for, there's an I attribute syntax or an I attribute symbol, I think, but you don't get that from this. It's like a method. It's weird. It's not what's obvious to me at first glance, but then when you kind of look at it hard enough, you're like, well, yeah, because if I was, well, that was not right. That was not right either. But if I do this, that's perfectly valid. That's calling the no argument constructor on the test attribute. So again, that takes a while. And I think if you actually look at the visualizer here, you'll see that there's an attribute here. Where is it? It's an attribute option, but it's an object creation. So it's like it's weird in terms of what you're trying to find and search for. So yeah. Anyway, fun with parsing, fun with code. So now we want, we did binary formatting, and I could do lowercase binary formatting and uppercase binary. Let's do it. Actually, I was trying to think in my head if I can make this a test case. And so I don't have these big, long things. What I'm really caring about is, hey, if I put this in, does it create a diagnostic? And like I pass in the 4 values. And the diagnostic would always be at the starting point, and then you just add on the length of it. Let's do that. I think that would be cleaner. So let's say test case, we want to put that in here. And should it do something? No. So we want to put in here string literal text bool should create diagnostic. Okay, so then here, we're going to do that. And we're going to put here literal text. And then we say var diagnostics is equal to if should create diagnostic. What we want to do then is grab this. Diagnostics. And then we can do that. Else. No. Yeah, you didn't like that, did you? Type of conditional expression because there's no implicit conversion between collection expressions and collection expressions. Screw you. Come on, get the feet. Oh, I didn't do. Oh, yeah, I did. I did put it all around there. That sucks. I wish it would. Wish ternaries work better. New list diagnostic. Result. Then we'll put that one in there. See, now you pick it up because now you know one's saying a list, so the other one should be that. And then I can just do that. And so one of them is going to be empty. Ugh. And now we need to say here 27 plus literal text length. So that takes care now of this test. I mean, that's the nice thing about parameterizing your tests is that it's much easier to throw in more cases here. So that was these, right? And do we even care using... Actually, we could handle all the cases. Yeah, why don't we do that? It doesn't even matter if it's... If we do that, that should be true. Yeah, so this is just no separators. Now it's, you don't have any separators. Should we add one in or not? And so we could also put the case in here saying what happens if you have 3, 1, 2. That should not. What does this test do now? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. All right. That's good. That's very good. So, what other cases do we want to cover? We also want to do X. Which, amazingly, that's true as well. We can say that. And now we can do the extended case, which is 1, and that should be true. True. Yep. And so now these should all... They all pass. Good. So now we got to do the dots. We've already covered this case. That's covered here. So the only one left now are the dot cases. So we want to have... That shouldn't. That shouldn't. This should. This also should. That should not. That should. Oh, one of them failed because it already turned red. Six failed. Yippee! Hey, do you think my dot logic is completely wrong? I think it is. right, so let's just put 1 in there. And let's put a breakpoint here. This is when people say, oh, I don't have time to write tests. Do you need to add anything to cover the little suffixes? Shut up, Mitch. I don't think so. That's only being specific as to the type. So if you say var x is equal to 1, 2, 3, that defaults to an int, I believe. If you say var x is equal to... Here, let me actually type this out to illustrate what I'm talking about. So if you say var x is equal to 1, 2, 3, x is technically a int. But if I put a u at the end, now it's an unsigned int. And if I do ul, that should be an unsigned long. Yep. So it's just being specific as to what the type of the number should be, especially if you're using var. That's all. So I don't think that matters. I really don't think that should matter. You are bringing up a point, though, in terms of formatting. Okay. So if I say var x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ul, right now this would flag it and say it needs separators where it doesn't. This should. So yes, I do need to look at the end and see, does it have any formatters on it? God damn it, Mitch. Sorry, language. I try to keep these streams a little bit not swearing. If you watch my gaming streams, I don't care about that at that point. But yeah, my coding streams, I try to keep it there. But it is a good point. It is a good point. I need to be concerned about literal suffixes like that. And so I'm going to put that here. And we want to trim that off. So I'll get to that in a moment. Let's figure out this bug first. Okay, so we get the dot position, and that should be 1, I believe. Oh, it's -1. Really? Whoa. Well, that sucks. Really? Wait, did it put in... What? Hold on, that made no sense. I am literally giving it a 3.12. Oh, that's why. I need to state the type right. Okay. String literal type. Literally type. That makes sense. Type. Okay, so now it's uncommon all these. So maybe I didn't have a bug. It's just the code was actually converting those to ints, and so that kind of sucked there. But correct. So we want all these to be ints. Well, most of these. Nope, not there. Not there. I was just realizing I could just tab these, and then I'll fix the ones that are not that. There. Okay, so now this has got to be a double. Sometimes you're like, why doesn't the C# or VS team supply these things? It's because this takes time to get right. And I'm not saying I'm as fast as the people that are on the Visual Studio team, but to have all the test cases to cover all these things, this takes time. And it takes time away from other things, you know. So that's where it's like, hey, if you want this, maybe create it yourself. That's what I'm doing. So now let's run these and see what happens. Okay, only 3 fail. And this is the unfortunate thing with NUnit is when you click on this, it just tells you 3 failed. You actually have to go to the window here to see which ones did. They're both doubles. Expected diagnostics to start at column 77 was... Oh! Oh, yes, that's actually true. We just got lucky with the ints. I bet these other two are just positioned wrong. Yeah. Okay. So, math is hard. I gotta do the span. It is gonna be at 27. I believe that's... No, it's... It was 27 with an int. So that's 27 minus 3 is 24. So it's always going to start... No, it's not. It's going to be... Sorry. This is going to be obvious once I figure it out. I just need to put in the right thing. I need to say the start of it is going to be 24 plus the length of the literal type length. And then it's going to be 24 plus the literal type length plus the literal text length. I believe that's correct. I could be wrong. Or the new line trick. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Mitch. Let's see if this actually... See if my math worked. Or maths, as the non-Americans say. I was right, but I get what Mitch is saying. If I just do this, then it's really easy. It's easier. Because now you don't have to do this, and that's also wrong, but now you can just say it's going to be whatever that is plus the length. And this is going to be 4. And so if we moved it over here, it's going to be 7, I believe. You can't see it because my camera's blocking it, but Visual Studio has a way to show you what the column would be. So I believe this should be a little bit easier to read. We'll see. It was encouraging that I was handling the nothing in front of the dot case. 8 failed. Why did 8 fail? How dare you? Expected diagnostic to start 7 was actually 3. Oh, then why did the other ones? Oh, because those are the... Okay, only the true ones failed. They started 3. Okay, I was reading the thing wrong. So it's 3, 3. And they all pass. Thank you for that trick. Sometimes I forget about tricks like that. Okay. I think we now have covered all the cases other than those type identifier thingies at the end, in which now I have to parse for. Insert swear word here. But I'll get to that in a moment. Let's actually... close this down. Let's get the scenarios project. That's what I use to just kind of visually see or see if it's actually picking any of this up or not. Sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's all okay. Literal numerics. Okay, let's do that. We'll have a public static. It doesn't matter. So we want to have public static, no, public const int Let's actually just grab, well, whatever. Int value with separator. So this should be like 1, 2, 3. That should not have any information with it, right? Numerics is a word. Shut up. With no separator. Small. This should also be okay. But now, let's put in a large number. Now what we should get, and we're not seeing here, but that could also just be yeah, unfortunately we're not getting it to show up here. It should be here, and it's not. Which is okay. Like I said, sometimes this doesn't always show up. It's your trick. I learned from you. I totally believe you. I probably said that in a previous stream and I completely forgot. Huh. Yeah, these errors are showing up, but I'm not seeing the info showing up. I'm not sure why. I mean, it is working. My test, like, I mean, if I did this, well, now it's just too big of a number for an int, but that should definitely trip it. We're just not seeing the info message come up, which is okay-ish. I mean, again, I have the confidence that this is actually working. I just would like to really see it in the output. No. It's not a warning either. There's 0 warnings. So, yeah, it's just not wanting to show up. Oh, well, I'll have to try that later. But, let's go back and transpire. I think this is a good place to stop. I think I've done enough for now. Obviously, there's more work to do. But let's at least commit all this stuff. Added more tests around formatting cases. But I think what I got to do next time is what Mitch brought up, which is detect these when you have something at the end. Because really what that's going to do is say it's going to affect the length of what you're looking for. So like this would be okay. But I'm actually going to be flagging it now as an error. Actually down here. Length is greater than 3. The length is 5, but it's actually, the number is 3. And so I'm going to have to figure out how do I determine if it's got these things at the end. That will be a case for next time. But I like where this ended up. I think we're in a good place. And concerned. I like the little spell check thing that Visual Studio has. It looks at everything, although sometimes it can be a little bit annoying. But again, it's just infos. They're just infos. They should show up. So next time when I do a random code stream, which again, we random, at least it'll be next Sunday, but I may do one sometime during the week in the morning. So what I'm going to do is continue on with this, add the support in for this stuff at the end, and then I want to add the code fix, which is to say, okay, we know you don't have the separators there, but we want to give you the option for spacing them out 2 or 4 with the hex or the binary. And then if you have a double, we want to make sure that we're separating them out by thousands in the right spots in the string. That should be interesting. And the same thing for the text here. So there's going to be some cleverness I'm going to have to do with the parsing of the numbers and making sure that I'm putting the underscores in the right spot. But that'll be for next time. So for those who are watching, or if you watch this in the future as a VOD, I want to thank you either way for stopping by and watching it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. I am really close to 1,000. That's my first goal. And I'm about 7 away. So any new subscription helps. If you already are subscribing, thank you again. I do appreciate that. I'm probably going to be doing some Hollow Knight streams this afternoon and evening. So if you have time and you want to stop by for those, feel free to attend. But with that, I am done with this stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care. Hope to see you in the future.